Welcome back to our strategic analysis series. Today, we are not standing on the sun-drenched flight decks of multi-billion-dollar aircraft carriers, which have long been the visible, hulking face of American hegemony. Instead, we are plunging into the hottest waters on the planet, places where a single cubic meter of water carries the crushing pressure of total war. We are entering a hidden world where a single miscalculation by an acoustic technician or a software glitch in a sonar array could trigger a chain of events leading to the final sunset of humanity. Vice Admiral Rob Gauscher, the man recently crowned as the Pentagon's sub-czar, has shattered the traditional bureaucratic silence of the silent service. He has issued a statement carrying the terrifying weight of 21,000 tons of pressurized steel. Delivering the Columbia-class submarine is no longer just a high-priority acquisition project. It has been officially designated as a life-or-death imperative. Why has this nuclear behemoth, costing over $9 billion per unit and weighing 21,000 tons, become Washington's final desperate lifeline? In a global landscape where carrier strike groups are increasingly vulnerable to swarms of low-cost suicide drones and long-range hypersonic anti-ship missiles in the Middle East and the South China Sea, the Pentagon has reached a grim conclusion. When the sky is no longer safe and the surface is a shooting gallery, American power must be buried in the darkness of the deepest trenches. The answer lies in a concept that keeps military planners in Moscow and Beijing awake at night: undetectable deterrence. When fixed airbases and silo-based ICBMs become mere fixed coordinates on an adversary's preemptive strike map, the Columbia-class, led by the USS District of Columbia SSBN 826, remains the ultimate ghost. It is the silent executioner that will deliver the final, crushing blow from the shadows long after every other branch of the military has been neutralized. Electric drive propulsion. The physics of absolute silence. The primary differentiator of the Columbia class, and the reason for its staggering price tag, is the total abandonment of mechanical reduction gears. In the older Ohio class, the massive steam turbines were connected to the propeller via a complex system of gears. These gears, no matter how finely machined, inevitably produced a rhythmic click or a low-frequency hum, a distinct acoustic signature that enemy passive sonar systems have spent decades learning to identify. The Columbia class eliminates this noise floor entirely. The nuclear reactor generates steam to turn high-speed turbogenerators, which produce massive amounts of electricity. This power is fed directly into an advanced permanent magnet electric motor that turns the propeller shaft. This is not just an upgrade, it is a fundamental shift in underwater physics. In the claustrophobic, shallow water pressure cookers like the Red Sea or the Strait of Hormuz, where salinity layers and thermal currents shift with violent unpredictability, noise is a death sentence. The electric drive system transforms the Columbia into a hole in the ocean. It moves with the acoustic profile of a drifting underwater mountain, neutralizing the sophisticated sonar arrays of modern adversaries. Furthermore, the A-1B reactor is a geopolitical game-changer. Unlike the Virginia or Ohio classes, which require a massive, multi-year midlife refueling overhaul that takes the ship out of the fight for years, the Columbia is built for a life-of-ship core. It is permanently always on, ensuring that the American nuclear triad never suffers a numerical dip during times of global tension. Trident II D5LE firepower, the Reaper's scythe from the void. Hidden within the hull are 16 common missile compartment tubes. These are not merely storage containers, they are the most sophisticated launch platforms ever devised. Each Trident II missile carries MIRV technology, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. This means one missile can release a salvo of nuclear warheads, each with a yield hundreds of times greater than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, striking different targets simultaneously. A single Columbia-class boat can unleash a total of 128 warheads. This is America's second strike capability. It is the guarantee that even if the U.S. mainland is incinerated in a surprise attack, the perpetrator will face total, irreversible annihilation from an unseen predator lurking beneath the waves. We are talking about a perfect stealth machine carrying enough firepower to rearrange the global map in under 30 minutes. But theory on an engineer's blueprint is one thing. Actual combat in a choke point crawling with enemy sensors is another. Let us now simulate a mission that traditional naval doctrine would consider impossible. Operation Hormuz Blackout. Tactical simulation, Operation Hormuz Blackout. The strategic context. The year is 2031. A regional coalition has successfully blockaded the Strait of Hormuz using a dense network of AI-controlled smart naval mines and thousands of low-cost, high-speed suicide drones launched from hidden coastal bunkers. U.S. carrier strike groups have been forced to stay hundreds of miles offshore, unable to breach the anti-access area denial bubble. Global oil supplies have plummeted. The world economy is in a freefall. Washington needs to deliver a message not of peace. The USS District of Columbia, SSBN 826, is ordered to penetrate the strait. The Columbia crawls along the seabed, maintaining a distance of only 5 meters from the silt. Enemy littoral patrol craft pass directly overhead. From the extreme shallows, the Columbia receives the flash-encoded emergency action message. It does not launch nuclear warheads. That would trigger World War III. Instead, it utilizes the versatility of its tubes to launch long-range conventional hypersonic cruise missiles. The enemy's entire early warning radar network, coastal drone control hubs, and anti-ship missile batteries are vaporized. The result is total paralysis. This scenario proves that the Columbia is the ultimate geopolitical scalpel. It is a weapon that can operate where nothing else can survive. However, this entire heroic vision is currently crumbling under the weight of a far more mundane, yet far more dangerous enemy: the American industrial crisis. It is time to step out of the high-tech fantasies and face the scorched earth reality that Vice Admiral Gaucher has laid bare. The American shipbuilding industry is not just behind schedule, it is at a state of red alert. The confession we saw in the official reports is a stunning indictment of decades of industrial neglect and a decaying manufacturing base. Let this number sink in. In 2011, it took roughly 13 million man-hours to build a nuclear submarine. Today, for the exact same scope of work, that number has bloated to 70 million man-hours. This is an industrial catastrophe of the highest order. We are looking at a 5 to 100% decrease in manufacturing efficiency. The United States is facing a critical deficit of 100,000 skilled workers: the welders, the nuclear technicians, and the master shipwrights required to turn steel into a weapon of war. You cannot download these skills. You cannot automate them overnight with AI. The appointment of a sub-czar like Gaucher, with the authority to bust things up, is a desperate signal. It means the Pentagon has officially lost faith in the traditional bureaucratic process. Gaucher reports directly to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, bypassing the endless layers of red tape that usually strangle major acquisition programs. The order is clear: break the rules, bypass the contracting officers who say no, and move at the speed of war. All policies are on the table, and risk is officially authorized. The Columbia is not being built in a vacuum. It is competing for the same scarce resources, the same specialized steel, the same dry docks, the same elite technicians as the AUKUS agreement and the Golden Dome missile defense system. The U.S. has made massive promises to supply Virginia-class submarines to Australia to counter the rise of foreign navies in the Indo-Pacific. But as Gaucher admitted, the U.S. is barely producing 4 hulls per year when the requirement is 233. This is a geopolitical check that the American industrial base might not be able to cash. When Gaucher says risk is authorized, he is telling us that the Navy is willing to cut corners that were once sacred. They are willing to accept technical deviations and bypass traditional quality control loops just to get a hull in the water. Why? Because the Ohio class is literally falling apart. These ships are the old guard of the American nuclear deterrent, and their hulls are exhausted from decades of extreme pressure cycles. If the Columbia is not delivered by 2028, the United States will enter a deterrence vacuum. In that silence, the risk of a global conflict escalates exponentially. America's rivals are not just building more submarines, they are building more shipyards. They are watching the 70 million-hour disaster with a sense of predatory satisfaction. They believe that the American empire is collapsing from within, not because its scientists are failing, but because its society can no longer produce the blue-collar warriors required to weld a nuclear pressure hull. Can the Sub-Czar perform a miracle? Can a few rule-breaking policies bridge a 57 million man-hour gap? Or are we witnessing the twilight of American naval dominance, a slow-motion train wreck where the world's most advanced nuclear submarine becomes a footnote in history because there was no one left to build it? The future of the USS District of Columbia is not being decided in the halls of Congress or the depths of the Persian Gulf. It is being decided right now in the sparks and the grime of the Newport News shipyards. And time, as the Admiral reminded us, is the only enemy that never runs out of ammunition. What do you think? Is the American industrial machine truly broken, or is Gaucher's reboot the spark that will save the triad? Leave your comments below. We need to hear your take on this industrial war. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for our next deep dive into the shadows of global defense. Goodbye for now, and remember, in the theater of total war, the winner isn't the one with the best blueprints. It's the one who can keep the welding torches burning until the job is done.